Hi, Pagan Shooter here. I thought I would do a quick review of something a little bit different. This would be the Abu Garcia Baitcaster set. This was something I got for Father's Day from my wife and my kids. This is the Abu Garcia SilverMax set. So it is a SilverMax rod, 7 foot medium heavy. It is a graphite rod. They have a suggested weight or lure and weight limit of between 3/8 of an ounce and 3/4 of an ounce. And the rod is rated for 10 to 20 pound line. I'll go ahead and put the model for both of these in the description of the video. The reel is an Abu Garcia SilverMax. It is a 6 bearing, 6.4 by 1 gear ratio, meaning every turn of the crank gear will give you 6.4 turns of the reel. Let's see, it is rated for up to 20 pounds, so it's 10 to 20 pounds of weight on the reel, and it is loaded currently with 20-pound braided line. I find that the braided line works better for the bait casters for me because the line doesn't have any kind of memory to it, and as I've discussed in previous videos, the monofilament lines themselves they tend to store memory or have a memory of how they're coiled. So what happens is when you unreel them, they tend to unreel a little more because they uncoil. That doesn't seem to happen as much, at least for me, with the braided line. Now the braided line is going to be a little more expensive, but in this case I got this off of the line off of Amazon, and it's not that expensive. It's quite silky. It's pretty nice. I can actually go ahead and do an interview if you guys are interested on that, or a review of the braided line, because I've gotten a couple different ones. If you're interested. If you're not, then I'll go off the likes of the video. So the rod itself cost about $80, or the rod and reel combination cost about $80. This is the most expensive combination I own right now. Once again, I really haven't been fishing that long. I did when I was younger, but I'm just getting back into it since we moved here to Minnesota. The reel is set with a right-handed crank. They have a left-handed crank, and I say it like that because my right hand, I usually crank with the right hand, and I am right-handed. Now, some people, even though they're right-handed, will crank with their left hand, and they feel like they have better control over the rod with their right. But that's up to individual preference. But this, to me, is a right-handed reel. The crank is on the right. The drag system is right here underneath the crank. You would loosen and tighten the drag system from here. There is 2 braking systems on this reel. It is an external braking system on this side. There is 10 settings. And then there is the normal baitcaster tightening or tensioning system here, which is also a brake. As far as baitcasters go, they are a bit more difficult to use than, say, your average spinning reel. However, your spin casters and your spinning reels don't have the abilities for the finesse or the casting abilities that bait casters do. However, with that ability, you end up with more of a chance of backlashing. Now, backlashing is what we used to call bird's nesting when I was a kid. And that's when so much line comes off that it ends up fluffing out the line out of here and it causes the line to lock up on itself and knot up. Now it's called a bird's nest. So bird's nesting usually happens when it unreels faster than the line is moving, which then causes an abundance of line to come out, and then it ends up causing a tensioning up in here. That's normally caused by either the tension screw not being adjusted correctly, the braking system not being adjusted correctly, or your technique is not correct. For me, it's usually a combination of all of those. Every time I've taken this out, I have backlashed it at least once. And almost every time I've taken it out, I've backlashed it to the point where I had to stop using this rod and then come home and undo it here because it was pretty bad. A couple times I've had to cut the line off. But, I mean, it's all a learning experience. I'm not a professional fisherman, so this is one of those things where I'm giving my opinion on it just based on my knowledge level. With this rod, I can give you a quick overview on how to use it. So, when you're setting up a new bait on this, you would adjust the tensioner here, so the bait just starts to fall when you release the line by pushing down on this button. So this button is your caster. You would push down on it, and you see how that released? When you push down, your thumb goes over this to hold the line, otherwise that rolls free. There's two ways of stopping it on this reel. You can push down on this, and that will lock it back down, or you can start reeling, and that'll lock it back down, just like a spinning rod. When you cast, your thumb goes here, you push down and hold, you cast, and when you release, you lift your thumb up slightly. When you lift your thumb up slightly, you're allowing line to feed off of the reel. When it gets to the point where it's about to land in the water, you want to slow the reel with your thumb and stop it. And it will land in the water, and you won't end up as often with a backlash. That is one of the techniques that I have learned. There is obviously other ways of doing this. Many other people will tell you different ways of casting with a bait caster, but that one seems to work the best for me. When you cast, I have found that a slingshot method tends to get your casting out there a bit further, and I'm thinking I might do a fishing video before it gets freezing cold here. And I may do a little bit of a fishing video where I kind of go through and explain how to cast with a bait caster. Hopefully it doesn't get uber embarrassing and I don't backlash when I do that. But that's one of the methods of doing it. Now, there are 2 points where it's possible to backlash, and that is when you're first throwing the bait, and that usually would be a result of this not being tight enough. Or your technique, it's not tight enough for your technique. The other point where it's possible to get a backlash is when your bait is getting close to the water and landing in the water, and that's when this piece becomes more of a factor. And that would be the braking system. As it gets to the end of the cast, the braking system will be slowing down the reel so it's not unraveling as fast. And that normally is what would cause the reels to unravel beyond when the lure or bait lands in the water. And that's what the other braking system is. There are other methods of using the braking system. There are other rods where you'll have this external, but this piece will come off, and there'll be some switches on the inside that you can change. There's reels. There are some reels that don't have the external switches at all, and it's just a cover that you pull off and you set your switches on the inside. I find that I don't adjust this side, the end braking system, as much, but I'm not very experienced with the bait casting rods yet. So I think as I get more experience, that'll probably change. Now, I have found though that since I've started using the bait casters, I'm able to cast quite a bit out there compared to when I had just the spinning reel or the spin caster. So the Abu Garcia SilverMax, it's a very nice setup. If you're looking for something that's pre-set up for you and you don't really have to do too much as far as finding the right matching rod and reel, it's actually a pretty decent setup. I do have other ones that I've put together myself, and I found that as I learn more about it, I'm able to pick out what I like more. But at the time that I got this, I didn't know as much about fishing, and I found that this set is actually a pretty nice set for somebody really starting out. Obviously, these professional fishermen will have will have more of a better opinion than I do, and probably have more facts to go behind it. But as far as my opinion, I think this is a pretty good deal. If you've got the $80 to spend on it, it's definitely worth a look. What do you think? Anybody out there that have subscribed or watching this video, if you fish, you obviously would probably have a little more experience than I would. What type of setup do you use? Go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share this video if you found it at all helpful. And we'll see you next time.